Fantastic. So we are now recording. You should all have received a notification just then. Did you get a notification? Lovely. Excellent. So first of all, Coding Black Females, for those of you who don't know, we were established in 2017 by myself. I've been a software engineer for about 15 years, I'm going to say 20 years, about 15 years now. And I actually created Coding Black Females because I wanted to meet more Black women in tech. I wanted to see other people who were going through similar experiences and learning and working in similar spaces. So that's why I created it. Our key focus now is really making sure that we can increase the representation of Black women in tech from both entry level right through to people who are experienced in leadership and in different types of roles. And our global community is now around 20,000 strong and growing, and we're a global community as well. So obviously we have boot camps, we have a range of events, we have a lot of activities that you could be getting involved in. The key activities that we focus on as a community are our events, mentor programs. We support people in finding new jobs, and we also do a lot of training as well. I'm going to give you a very quick overview around what's happened over the last few years. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just so that people know, the process that we've used to get there. So as I said, we started out in 2017, where we ran a few events. We actually launched our first boot camp after growing the community through our events and mentor programs. We launched our first boot camp in 2020, before 2021, where we actually started getting people placed, where 80% of the people that we trained then moved into new roles. 2022, we launched our Return to Tech Bootcamp, our AWS Restart Bootcamp as well. And we also started doing quite a lot of work in Bristol. Last year, we launched our Entry to Tech Bootcamp, and we're on to our third cohort of that bootcamp now, alongside our third cohort of Return to Tech and AWS Restart as well. So we've been going in pretty strong over at Coding Black Females, making sure that we can have a huge range of opportunities for everybody. This year, we're also going to be launching our machine learning bootcamp, which we're working on at the moment to make sure that people also have opportunities to get into there. I'm not going to give you a date for that yet because we don't have one, but it is something that we're working on. So the bootcamps that we have, like I said, we kicked off in 2020 with our full stack development bootcamp. We've now got a range of bootcamps, which include AWS Restart, Entry to Tech, and Return to Tech. If anybody has applied for AWS Restart, can they raise a hand or something, or give me some kind of reaction? Cool, seeing a couple there. Lovely. And anybody who's applied for Entry to Tech or wants to apply for it? Lovely. Return to Tech? Anybody here for Return to Tech? Okay, cool. So a few of you are saying yes to different things. I should have made you vote on it using different symbols, but hey, we use reactions, but that's absolutely fine. So good to see that some of you have already applied, or that you will be applying again soon as well. So our application process is the same for every bootcamp that we run. You have an application form, you will then complete a technical assessment, and you will then submit a screening video. The technical assessment and the screening video can be submitted at the same time, or one before the screening video could go first, technical assessment next. But it all starts with the application form. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the bootcamps that we have. So as I mentioned, we have AWS Restart. That looks at you learning elements around cloud computing, operating systems, security, networking, Python, and cloud services. Later on this year, we do plan to have add-ons to Restart, where you can go down a cybersecurity pathway or a machine learning pathway. With the eligibility for AWS Restart, we're not looking for any technical eligibility really, but we will always look for an interest in technology in everyone's applications. So make sure that you express that very strongly if you can when you apply for all of our courses. So we're not looking for anything in particular there. However, you will need to complete a learner assessment And in that assessment, it's sort of looking at how you approach challenges. It's not a coding test, it's an assessment looking at how you may schedule your emails or prioritize work, that sort of thing. The outcomes that you'll have from AWS Restart are a certified cloud practitioner certification that you get from AWS alongside being ready to work in the tech industry. And we have seen people complete that bootcamp and move into new roles as well within tech. And the next cohort for that will be kicking off in September. Entry to Tech is another one of our bootcamps where you focus on software development and software design. So with the Entry to Tech bootcamp, we will be teaching people Java there, and that's the key focus that we have. Over time, there will be other languages that you'll learn, but at the moment, our focus is Java. There is no technical eligibility required here either, so not a lot of strong knowledge that you need to have previously. However, you will need to complete a coding test, but we do give you all the materials that you need for that coding test ahead of time. And there's a video where we explain how to approach that coding test. And I'm more than happy to run through that approach today as well. The outcomes that you get from Entry to Tech, you'll be able to build software applications and APIs, an understanding of DevOps and cloud. And you should also be comfortable working in a team. So on all of our bootcamps, you'll be put in a group with other people who are learning with you that you can learn with and code with as well. And our next cohorts for that are kicking off in May and June. So do get your applications in soon, as we're currently in the process of reviewing. And once the spots are gone, essentially. And our other bootcamp that we focus on is Return to Tech, where you will do full stack development, software design, DevOps and cloud, and technical architecture and leadership. The technical eligibility that you do need to have there is at least 2 years working in a hands-on technical role. If you haven't been working in tech before, we won't accept your application for Return to Tech. However, we may recommend Entry to Tech or AWS Restart to you if that's more suitable and if you're eligible to apply for that particular program. What we're looking for there in terms of outcomes is, again, you'll be able to build applications using more modern technology if you've come from a background maybe of working in SQL or Subversion, if you've been in tech quite a while ago, and you'll also come up with some leadership skills too. With that as well, what I will say around the technical eligibility is that we'd expect you to be either in tech now, so you could be a software engineer looking to move to the next rung of the ladder, or you could also be returning to tech too. So that's somebody who may have had a career break for any particular reason and want to return. Somebody has asked in the chat actually, which is relevant for this one, what's the duration of Entry to Tech? All of our boot camps across the board, we run for around 16 to 24 weeks. And the reason I state it in that way is that each cohort is a little different depending on how we're funded. So typically we do aim to have them as 16-week cohorts with 3 evenings a week that you'll be learning. AWS Restart, you'll also be learning on a Saturday as well, because we have to get that content in. The reason that some of them will run for a bit longer at around 24 weeks is if we have extra content that's provided by our partners that you learn whilst you go through, or if we add in some extra breaks as well. So before I move on to how to apply, I will have a quick look to see. In fact, I'll answer all the questions at the end. That's probably easiest. So how to apply. So as I mentioned, we have our screening video, our application form. Then you'll have the screening video and technical assessment. So firstly, with the application form, when you head to the website for any of our bootcamp applications, you will see at the top that there is an Apply Today button, and that basically scrolls to the bottom of the page where you will find the application form. So all the application forms for all of them, they're at the bottom of the page and they are type form applications, but there are links throughout the page that take you down to that part of the form. Everything above that on the website is to do with maybe frequently asked questions, eligibility for the course, the upcoming cohorts, and so on. So do read what we have on that page, because that's all giving you information that could support with your application. With the application form, we really want to know your motivations for your application. So why do you want to be in tech? We are looking for people on all the boot camps who want to work in tech. Or if you want to do freelancing or freelance work, we're also looking for that kind of thing. If you're kind of trying to figure out if you like tech, a bootcamp probably isn't for you at this moment. I would recommend a short course, an online course to figure out if you like tech. When you're filling out the application form, we do have some wordier questions, one of those being the personal statement. And with that, again, we were trying to understand your motivations, what you've done previously, and why you actually want to work in tech as well. You don't need to use ChatGPT or Gemini or any AI tools. So we do see a lot people are clearly putting their questions or their answers into ChatGPT and getting a nicely formed answer out at the other end. Whilst it's lovely to read a lovely script written by an AI tool, we actually quite like to meet all of you as people and know what you're actually saying to us. Also, we have to read it. So if you put together a really long script that you made on ChatGPT, it's a bit harder for us to find out more about you. So our ideal outcome would be that you give us bullet points of why you're applying, why you want to be on the program, and what you want out of it and what you want to do in tech. So ideally, bullet points if you can. Not everybody works in the same way, so we do have a few ways that you can give us that information, which is why we have the application form and a video, so you can tell us your views in different ways, but it doesn't need to be overly wordy there either. There is a question as well where we ask about your previous tech experience and knowledge. Fill that out as much as you can. So if you've done courses, what did you learn on those courses? If you've worked in tech before, what did you do working in tech? And also don't discount other technical roles that you may have had in the past. So an example of a role that you may have had technically could be working as a service desk engineer or working in project management with technical teams. Tell us about that work too, because that's going to be really relevant to how we view you when we're assessing your application to support you with moving into tech. I will say that if you've got a technical background, it will be easier for you to get a hands-on technical role after doing one of the boot camps as well. We then also have a technical assessment. This video clicks through it very quickly, but I'm happy to show you in a bit more detail afterwards. But once you've applied with your application form, if you meet eligibility and you're not automatically rejected, you will then be sent through an email which details the learner assessment, which will take you to a platform called Codabyte. If it's not AWS, we use a different platform for the assessment, but for Codabyte, we use, but for entry to tech and return to tech, we will use Codabyte. And there will ordinarily be 3 challenges that you'll need to complete in there. With the challenges, what we tend to see is people kind of jump in and just want to get started. What I would definitely say is, please, please, please read the question a few times, look back at the material that we've sent you, use that material to guide and support you as well. So that material will tell you how to approach the question, how to break it down. Then, for example, you'll have a question that might say, count everything up to this value. So I know that one of our technical assessment questions is simply add everything from 1 to 10, for example, and break that question down and then look up on the internet, how would you search, how would you add everything together from 1 to 10, and how would you approach it? But the content that we've sent you does really help with how you could start focusing on that. So you might want to think about loops, you might want to think about arrays and different adding functions that you may have within coding as well. So we get a lot of people who say, look, I don't have a background in tech, I don't have a background in coding, so I can't do the test. But what I would actually say is, in the email that we send to you after you apply, there's a video where I run through all of the steps, I run through the Codabyte platform for you. There's also then learning material that you could use to guide you through how to understand a language. So we look at JavaScript and Java, but you can use any language that you may have done before. And then we actually run through doing a test with you as well. And I'm happy to do that today, or look more at the Codify platform if any of you would like that afterwards. But basically, there's a video and resources, like I mentioned. In the test, there is a search panel on the left-hand side. So use resources such as MDN and W3 Schools when you're looking for support with that test. And do give yourself time to complete the assessment. If you're really short at coding, if you've been doing it for a long time, you probably could do it very, very quickly in about half an hour. But other people, you will need to dedicate some time to doing it. So if you have children, I know a lot of people will put the kids to bed and do it in the evening, or you might want to do it first thing in the morning, that sort of thing, or at lunch if you've got a bit of break. And do add in comments as well to your code, because we actually go through and we watch the videos. So if you fail the test for whatever reason, we can look at the comments that you may have left or your thought process and use that as a way to support you with getting onto the program. All we'll do is once you're on the bootcamp, we'll make sure that you have the right kind of mentor allocated to you when you're learning. So use the resources, attempt the test, add comments, and we will review everything that we see. Feel free, by the way, to add any questions you've got into the comments, because I will be answering all of them at the end, like I said. The next thing that we have is our screening video. So once you apply in the same email, you will receive information about the screening video that we'll need to ask you about. And with that, there are a few questions that we ask you. So tell us about yourself. Why do you want to work in the tech industry? What are you particularly interested in? What sort of roles do you want to go into? What have you done in the past that made you interested in tech? And then you complete that video, fill out a form, submit a CV, and then send that over to us. And we use all that information then to really understand your background. So with that one, if you're struggling to record a video, we're happy for you to record it via text and upload that instead. We don't need it to be perfectly edited. You can just get your phone out, film your face, and then upload that and let us know more about you. Or if you want to do a voice note and send that over as well, that's absolutely fine. But do complete that, and then we use all that information, and we don't really process applications until we have all three elements of the application form, the technical assessment, and the screening video. When you submit your CV, so we ask for your CV when you submit your screening video, please try to make it tech relevant if you can. So if you've got any courses you've done, any bootcamps done in the past, or if you've worked in tech in the past as well, do let us know about the information that you've added there too. And as I said, we use all of that to process your application. You can record a video up to 15 minutes, but ideally if you can keep your videos short, because we tend to watch these videos back to back. And the shorter the video, as long as you answer all the questions, it's quite useful when they are a bit shorter. So happy for it to be shorter than the 15 minutes. So that's the application process. Once you are selected, we will then send you an enrollment form, and we'll then get you signed up onto the course, and then the courses will commence. I wanted to share with you a few success stories that we've had on the bootcamp as well, on all three of the bootcamps, because we do see people coming through and making it into tech. And a lot of people do ask, is there any point in me applying? Will I really get into tech? And the answer is yes, it is possible. We do what we can, but we also need you to do your bit as well. So it doesn't take, people sometimes will join the course and think, I'm on the course, therefore it means I can get into tech. But you've got to be on the course, engage on the course, do the coursework, do the homework, and then apply for roles, and we'll connect you with employers as well. But we do want you to take some of the effort there in terms of pushing yourself forward and driving your applications forward. But I'm going to mention 3 people to you. One of them who did entry to tech, so Helene, who started with CBF last year as a head receptionist. She actually came along to one of our events to find out more about the boot camps that we were running, a bit like this, although it was also a networking event that we ran in person. She started the boot camp last year in June, I believe, and completed it in January this year. And she has just started a new role at UBS as a software engineer. And all that took was around 6 months to get from joining CBF as head receptionist and then starting a new role at UBS, an investment bank, as a software engineer. We also have Brittany, our clinic coordinator, who started on AWS. So she did that in 2023. She started with us last year in January, trained over a few months in AWS Restart, attended more of our events along the way, and is actually just about to start at a company called Principal One as a consultant as well. So another person who's had a great bit of success with Coding Black Females. These are all people that you probably will have met if you've been to any of our events, but we obviously changed all their names and everything. But they're all real people. They've been through Coding Black Females and they've had great success on the other end too. And then we have Faith, somebody else who has been through one of our programs. So she went through Return to Tech and she started with us as a DevOps engineer, so somebody who was already in tech. Attended a range of workshops and events and activities with Coding Black Females. Last year, started on the Return to Tech Bootcamp and then completed it, and has just started as well at BAE Systems Digital Intelligence as a senior consultant. So really to support with that moving up the ladder. So it absolutely is possible to go through our programs and progress and gain roles in tech. We do work with quite a range of partners, and we'll do what we can as well to support you on your journey. But do we have any questions? I'm going to go through the chat and then I will unmute. And then if anybody would like to hear more about the technical assessments or watch me go through a process or anything, more than happy to do that. So we have somebody who says that they have done the MOOCs that lasted for 4 Mondays and gotten the certificate too, applied for the bootcamp and got no response. What do I do? Anybody who hasn't received a response from us ever, please email us at academy@codingblackfemales.com. A lot of our systems that will send you emails once you're in the process are all automated. So if there's ever a failure, it could be that a system's down for a short amount of time. So do email us and let us know if you've applied for something and you haven't received a response, because we always get back to everybody who contacts us. I would like to apply for AWS Restart. How do I go about it? So hopefully this has provided some insight into how you apply for our boot camps. But what I will do is I'll put into the chat the links for all of our boot camps now so that you know how to apply. Oops. There's one of them. Another. So that's all of the application pages. And like I said, if you click on the apply button, that will take you through to the how you apply to the actual application form. People who applied for AWS Restart and they were told that the spring cohort has been postponed or cancelled. Like I said, we're doing that we'll be doing the spring cohort, or the AWS Restart cohort will be running in September. You do not need to apply again. If you have applied and you would like to be transferred onto something else, do let us know and we'll send you the information to continue your application. So you won't have to fill out the application form again. If you do, that makes it a lot easier for us. But if you don't, we can transfer you onto another one of the courses, and then we'll send you the follow-up information, where the email that I just ran through, where you'll see the learner assessment link and the link to submit your screening video. We've answered the question already about the duration of entry to tech and all the boot camps. Yes, if you want to change your application from AWS Restart to entry to tech, you absolutely can do. They do have a different technical assessment. So if you've completed the application, you'll need to do the technical assessment again, but we'll send out an email now to everybody who has done the application for AWS Restart to continue with Entry to Tech if they choose to. How do you find out the outcome of your AWS Restart application? So we are reviewing all applications at the moment. If you're being waitlisted, you should get a waitlist email if you're being waitlisted for any of the courses. And that basically means you've got a conditional offer based on meeting the eligibility when we have our next cohort open. So we will make sure that they're all being sent. We are reviewing currently AWS Restart because our cohort's starting in September. We're not sending out the acceptance emails just yet. We're doing Entry to Tech and Return to Tech first, but we'll make sure that those waitlist emails are sent out to you all soon. Are they offline training, AWS and Entry to Tech? So all our training courses are delivered online. You will complete the course online. There'll be some in-person sessions where we want you all to come together and network with each other and find out more about how the course is going, or get to know, build those relationships as well outside of being online. But all of the actual training is delivered online. If you can't attend 1 or 2 sessions live, then recordings are available to you. If you would be attending all the sessions offline and not during session time, we probably wouldn't be able to accept you at this time, because you actually do exercises with your study groups during session and things like that. And we wouldn't want you to miss out on those opportunities as well. What times of day are the courses? So our courses typically run between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. It used to be 6 to 9, but we made it a bit later because other people were struggling to get home from work to then start on the course. So 6:30 until 9:30 in the evening. In the test, what are we looking for? So we're looking for, in the technical assessments, we are typically looking for your approach to thinking logically. So if you don't get the right answers, sometimes it doesn't matter, because we're looking at, did they break down the question okay? Did they add in the right coding concepts, but maybe you missed a semicolon? I'm not concerned if you miss a semicolon, I miss them all the time. But you may, are you able to put the building blocks of code together in the right way? That's why I say add comments where you can, so that we can understand how you've broken those questions down yourself. In addition to that, we also have, when you're actually on the coding platform, you can run the code and see whether the code runs successfully, which will help you to know if you're actually passing currently or not. If you applied for the bootcamp and didn't pass, if you reapply, will you automatically be rejected again? Absolutely not. If you reapply for the bootcamp after you've not applied and you attempt it again and you have improved in, maybe you've done more short courses, maybe you've got a better coding outcome, maybe your screening videos shows or gives us more information about your motivations for the course, you won't be rejected automatically. Absolutely not. We review you each time that you apply. So don't worry about that. The time that we wouldn't necessarily, sometimes we see people apply very well the first time, and then every time they apply after that, they put less and less information in. We do take each individual application as it is. We will take into consideration if we've seen you apply every year and we can see that you're really keen to try and progress in this way, but we will be looking at whether you've been making those improvements whilst you've had those years as well over time. There are different companies to apply to. Do they offer something different? Yes, they do. So when we partner with different companies, we have now added onto all of the bootcamp pages who our funders are and who our partners are for the different courses. So sometimes when there's a company involved, they're offering you a role on completion. Some interview at the beginning, so you've got almost like a guaranteed role if you pass the course. Some will offer a bursary whilst you're training, so you can get paid whilst you're learning as well. Some don't offer a job, they're just kind of sponsoring your space, and then we support you with finding a role. So they do offer different things. If you would like to know more about that, on the website, if you head to the, there's a section on the upcoming cohorts, and that will tell you the differences between each of those partners and their start dates. AWS versus Entry to Tech, our recommendation in terms of gaining roles, kind of depends on what you'd like to go into. So we have seen with AWS Restart, you're going to get a cloud certification, which is quite useful It's going to take you down the path of being able to apply for service desk, cloud roles. It could be quite useful for cybersecurity, Python, that sort of thing, because you do learn that whilst you're on AWS. It's very broad what it covers. So you could apply for those types of roles, basically. Entry to tech, we've got a very key focus on Java. So it's really the sort of roles that you may be interested in. And if you're looking to go down a definite software engineering route, entry to tech is the one to go for. AWS is a bit broader, but you may need to do a bit of a top up, potentially in your own time, of then how to code to get through technical assessments that you may have when applying for roles as well. I can go through the technical assessments, absolutely, but I'm not going to give you the answers to all of them. I might just approach one of the first ones that we do on the entry to tech application. I won't answer it, but I'll talk through the platform and how it all works. But I'll answer these questions first, although there's quite a lot of questions, but I will run through them as quickly as I can. How does CBF go about connecting those who've completed the bootcamp with employers? So once you complete the bootcamp, we've got a few activities that we do. We have a careers week. We then have a careers fair where you can meet a few of our partners. We then have an interview day where you can get interviewed with our partners as well. I will say that typically our partners are choosing the people that they may go about to interview. So you may not always get selected, but we'll always be throwing out roles to you that you could be applying for as well. And we do have people on the team who can support with applications if you need it. Sometimes we have boot camps, like I said, that are fully funded or fully sponsored by a particular partner. And they will actually be the one providing those roles on completion too. If you're not successful in getting those roles, you'll then fall into the pool of interview days, careers week, and careers fairs. Hi, Charlene, apply for return to tech. Any eligibility criteria in terms of residency? Yes, so typically with the current return to tech partner that we have, you'll need to have been based in the UK for at least 5 years and be eligible to work in the UK. And the reason for that is that you'll also be going through vetting once you're on that bootcamp, and that means that they're going to be doing checks on your background because you'll be working in an organisation where that's what they require. So with this cohort that's coming up, yes, you will. There are eligibility criteria there around ensuring that you have been in the UK for long enough to get that vetting, basically. We may have partners in the future that don't require that, but that's the current partner that we have available. Right, I've completed my application form already. I've not done some of the things mentioned, such as making my CV tech oriented, putting my personal statement in bullet form. What can be done about this? There's nothing that you need to do about it. It's absolutely fine if you've got a long personal statement. It's also fine if your CV isn't tech oriented. What I have had is some people who have sent us an email afterwards and said, can you add this to my application, or can you update my CV with this CV? You can actually resubmit the CV form as well if you want to. You can submit that as many times as you like. So if you want to update that, you're more than welcome to. We're gonna, even if you've written a very long personal statement and it's not in bulleted form, we will still read through it. I'm just asking that if necessary, bullet points are also fine because we're reading it. So it takes just a bit longer when we're reading a long script, that's all. But don't worry if you've already submitted it and it's not in that form, we're still more than happy to accept it. Can other genders apply for entry to tech? Yes. So we do allow all genders to apply for our boot camps. And depending on availability and space, we'll accept anybody who applies as well, regardless of background. Our priority as an organisation is Black women and non-binary, but all genders are welcome to apply for everything that we have available, and people of all backgrounds as well. What constitutes even rudimentary technical experience? Do HTML structured data analytic count? Typically, if you've done HTML, it's not going to be enough to get you through the technical assessment. So you may want to do things like JavaScript, because when you do the technical assessment, you have to choose a programming language. So I would recommend, if you've done HTML, do some JavaScript as well. We've given you resources in the email that you'll receive when you apply, so that you can use that to support with how you'd approach technical assessment. We have had people who have emailed us and said, look, this is the code I've written for my technical assessment. Can you guide me to figuring out the answer? More than happy to do that as well. So do feel free to just drop us an email, can help out where you need that as well. Right, so we have somebody who has the right to work in the UK, moved here last year, 5 years of experience in software development in India, not the UK. So where your experience is doesn't matter. It's where you're based as to whether you can go through the vetting process. So if you've only been in the UK for 1 year, you probably can't go through the vetting process. Every one of our boot camps does require you to have the right to work in the UK, because all of our boot camps are focused on employability on completion as well. So if you have the right to work, I would say apply, make sure you let us know that you do have the right to work. If you can't go on to Return to Tech, we may suggest that you go on to Entry to Tech instead, as we don't have the requirement that you need to have been here for 5 years or anything like that. Can you apply if you're 50 and without a background in tech? Absolutely fine. We've had people aged, I think, up to like 65 apply and take part in our courses. The key thing is the technical assessment. So we'll need you to complete the technical assessment and go through that. If you don't have a background in tech, like I said, the resources are there. There's a video there for you to watch, and hopefully that will support you in getting through that once you've finished. Yes, we will send out the recording of the call to everybody who has signed up today, so that's absolutely fine. Can you reapply if you think your application was not good enough and you want to improve your chances? You can reapply, yes. Like I said, you can apply as many times as you like. What I would recommend is potentially dropping us an email first, just because you might think that your application wasn't very good, but we might have thought it was great. So feel free to let us know that you're thinking of reapplying, and we may be able to still support and just say, actually, you don't need to, and we're happy with what you've submitted already. Okay, so we have somebody who started their application on Entry to Tech, finished coding assessment. Can they switch to Return to Tech as they currently work in tech but in a different role? Yes, and we are happy to put you forward for Return to Tech, and then if you're not successful with that, according to our partner review, we can then put you on our Entry to Tech program. Please drop us an email letting us know that you explicitly would like to have that update made, because then the team will be aware that you want to change what you've applied for. When does the next Entry to Tech cohort begin? I believe the next cohort starts on the 13th of May. And then after that, the next one is the 10th of June, I believe. But on the website, if you go to the Entry to Tech page, then if you apply for the Entry to Tech page, you'll get to the upcoming cohort section where it will tell you exactly what cohorts are coming up and the dates they'll be starting. Kira, I've had a question from Kira. Success stories from people who did not work in the CBF company. I don't fully understand your question, so I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask me that question, or elaborate on that a little bit. Is that okay, Kira?
Yeah, that's fine. Good afternoon. I was just asking because the success stories, they were all people that worked within the organization. So I was just asking, do you have any success stories from people that didn't work within the organization?
Oh no, none of these people worked within CBF. They're all people that applied for a boot camp. So they joined Coding Black Females as a member. They didn't join as a member of staff. They joined.
Oh, sorry, I thought they were a member of staff, so I apologize.
No. They all joined as members of the community. Then they went through the program and then they gained roles. So it's absolutely fine. You don't need to work for us. That's no problem. Somebody asked if you can apply at 54-year-olds. Absolutely. How can you cancel your application if you haven't lived up to 3 years in the UK? You may not need to, because we may be able to just move you over to the course. So if you're not eligible for Return to Tech, but you still like to stay in the process, just let us know and we can make you be available for a course where that eligibility requirement doesn't hold. If you'd like to cancel, we do have people that send an email through to say, I no longer want to proceed with your application. But if you've already applied, you might as well just leave it in the system, because then we'll consider you whenever we have opportunities in the future as well. We have somebody who's going to do a cloud internship. I feel like you're able to apply for the computer science. So somebody who's done a cloud internship, they've applied for AWS Restart, but would like to do Return to Tech. Return to Tech, you probably won't be able to do that if all you have done up to that point is a cloud internship. You'll need to have more technical experience to be able to apply for Return to Tech. We're looking for 2 years of experience working in tech. Yes, you can resubmit your assessment video. Very happy for you to just log on, resubmit the video and send it in again. Return to Tech after May, we don't have any cohorts coming up at the moment for Return to Tech, other than the one starting in May, but we anticipate that it will be in autumn. Right. Somebody's asked for a call. If you ever just drop me an email, if you reply to I sent an email out to everybody this morning. If you've already applied or registered interest, I'm happy to reply and have a call with anybody who would like one. As long as it doesn't take too long, because I don't have that much time available. Can you do the boot camps as a student who isn't looking to go straight into employment but graduates in a year? Not always, no. So what we did have with last year, so we had a boot camp sponsored by UBS last year. We had a couple of students on there who weren't quite ready to move into employment. So they're almost like on hold until they're able to move into work. So I would definitely say, if you're not ready for the employment side, make it clear in your application, apply anyway, because then you're in the system, and then we can use that to enable you to apply the next time round, because we'll get in contact with you again. Okay, I've answered a lot of questions. Can you do Entry to Tech even though you would like a role in cloud? Yes. If you do Entry to Tech and you want a role in cloud, you can still apply for roles in cloud. It's up to you what you apply for. So absolutely. Any physical class during the boot camp? We don't have physical classes on our boot camps, but what we do have is some sessions where you'll come together from a networking perspective. And some boot camps, when we start them, there's an in-person onboarding for the very first session. And then after that, the rest of it's online. I'm going to do a technical assessment now, because I realized that we only have 12 minutes left and I want to make sure that we get to it. So bear with me whilst I stop sharing my screen. And now everything else that I talk about is going to be Entry to Tech focused. So bear with me a second. Whilst I'm getting everything up, feel free to ask questions, by the way. I don't know if I've made a mistake in asking that question, in suggesting them. You should be able to unmute and ask if you would like to. Okay, good. Well, bear with me 1 second whilst we get that up. Okay, so I'm going to start from the moment that you have received an email. Can you see that? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so in the video, when you receive the email, bear in mind there's this video here that I took the time out of my evening to record, I think, one day. So do watch that, because it tells you a bit more about how to be successful with the application process as well. But when I'm talking about the learner assessment, let me just make this a bit bigger for you. If you read through all this information, and also there's a course here that we recommend that you do before the learner assessment. Doing some of it should get you to where you want to go. You don't need to do the whole thing. There's a video here on completing a technical assessment with Coding Black Females. So this is a video that I put together. There's an ad there, but there's a video there that you can watch, which will take you through the process of how to actually complete the assessment as well. And then there's also a lot of resources available here and a link to a practice assessment too. So all of this should help you with preparing for the technical assessment. So firstly, if we click on complete technical assessment, you'll get to the Coding Black platform and you'll be asked to enter your name. Let me enter one of my many email addresses. And you then click on begin assessment. You will have to do this from a computer, by the way. Your phone won't work to do this, I don't think. You have a limited time and you can click on begin assessment. You should be able to go in here and complete it a few times as well. So if you want to do it again, I think you should be able to do that. So this is for entry to tech, but there are 3 assessments that you have to do. If you genuinely can't do one of them, that's fine, but I would like people to attempt all 3. So if we start with simple adding, this is what the platform will look like once you have applied or once you've said that you would like to have a go at doing it. On the left-hand side, you will see the question and the examples of what input would be and the outputs that you could expect as well. And we've also enabled you to be able to search for resources down here as well. So you can search Google down here if there's anything that you would like to know when you're doing the assessment. So here, what I say to everybody is read the question, which sounds really obvious, but it's actually really, really important to do that. Just to make you all aware as well, that here you can choose different languages should you want to do it with a different language. And you can also change it from light to dark mode if it's easier for you to read it in one way or the other. If you start doing it and you want to reset, so you've typed in loads of disappeared, it doesn't quite work, you can reset and it will take your code back to the original state as well. And on the right-hand side, this is where you can run your code and run different test cases and submit it. So just to make you aware, when it says run code, it's going to take this value here. This is what we call a function, and it's going to pass this value into this function, and then it will tell you what the output is. So I'd expect that when we run this, this says simple adding num, return num. And if you don't know what that means now, it's okay. You'll find out once you do some more research into those elements of coding. But I expect that when I click on run code, I'm going to see the number 8 output down here because I'm telling it to just return the number that's passed in. So run code, you'll see the number 8 here. So when you actually add your code in, what we expect to see, or what we will then start seeing, is the outputs based on the code that you put in as well. You can then also run the test cases. So the way that this sort of thing works is you add your code in. When it's then testing your assessment, it runs different numbers or different entry input values over your code to see that it's got the right output. So you can actually run a range of test cases here. So if you look here, the input that it passed in was 12 and it got 12 out, and it passed in 140 and it got 140 out. So it just runs all those test cases over your code. And then once you've finished it, you can submit it as well. You'll notice that there's a line of code here and it says keep this function call here. Don't delete this, otherwise your code will not pass. We typically check everyone's code, especially if you failed, to see what may have gone wrong. But if we notice that you've taken this line out, we'll give you a pass regardless. But try to read what's there. So it says keep this here, so don't delete it, and code goes here. So the thing that I say to everybody at the beginning is break down the question and then start doing some research. So it says on the left-hand side, have the function simple adding num, add up all the numbers from 1 to num. Does anybody know what that might mean?
Say that again, please.
So the question here is have the function simple adding, and then in brackets it says num, add up all the numbers from 1 to num.
I think it's basically saying that you should add all the numbers up to 8 from 1 to 8, 8 being num.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. So we want to make this function add up all the numbers from 1 to whatever number we pass in. And it explains that here. So for example, if the input is 4, then your program should return 10 because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. Someone's just asked, can you choose a programming language that you want to do the test in? Absolutely. So when you click on the drop-down list next to JavaScript or whatever language is there, you can change it. So we typically see a lot of people do Java, JavaScript, and Python. So, but any language that you're happy with, you can enter it, because we're looking at your ability to use a programming language to answer a question, not the actual language. So it's okay if you change the language. So the way I always start is by adding some comments. So I want to, even if it's just, you know, what it says in the question, add all numbers from 1 to num. Okay. So the way that we need to do that is, so when you want to add up all the numbers from 1 to num, you're like, okay, cool. So how do I get from, if num is 8, then it's going to be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. The reason that we ask you to use the course material that we send over is because that is actually going to be something that we call a loop. So we're going to want to loop over all the numbers from 1 to num. And then once we loop over those numbers, we're going to want to, add together the numbers in the loop. So the next thing I would do, as somebody who doesn't code every day even, and I do have to look up a lot of code myself, is I would look up how to do a loop in JavaScript using the search function. You're going to get a lot of results, and I tend to ignore the sponsored ones and scroll down to something that's either from W3 Schools, as we mentioned earlier, or MDN. So these are both web documentation. You'll see a lot of answers that come in from Stack Overflow, and you can ignore those because that's typically, Stack Overflow is a platform that people use when they're asking a question and they're looking for people to give them an answer. So if we look at the JavaScript for a loop, we can see what it says. So instead of writing something over and over and over again, you can actually write something in a loop. So what a loop does is it says, okay, go from 0 to, in our case, probably going to be num. And then this final bit at the end where it says I++ says add 1 to the value each time. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail because this is for you all to understand, but I'm happy to add some of that in. It does say copy and pasting detected, and it monitors when you do that. I don't actually mind too much if you copy and paste, as long as I can see that you understand it. If you copy and paste in the full answer, then it's clear that you probably copied it from maybe ChatGPT and pasted it in. But if you copy it from somewhere like W3 Schools and then change it to make it relevant to what you're doing, absolutely fine. So if we look at what we pasted in, so we need to make this correct now based on what we're trying to achieve. So I is what we call the iterator. We're going to start at 0 and we're going to loop over everything from I to num. And we're going to add 1 to it each time. What I tend to do with this, because we want to add things from 1 to the following number, probably going to want to start at 1 and go up to when I is equal to num. So when we're going to add from 1 to 8, the way we had it before would add from 0 to 7. And then we will need to actually do the adding. So if you notice, we have here, add together the numbers in the loop. So you're going to want to have a result value here that we're going to add onto. So we're going to have a result, and we're going to start that result at 0, and then we're going to update that result using the values that we get when we go over that for loop. So I don't want to show you how to do this, but I'm going to do it because I'm in a good mood today. So I'm going to say that result equals result plus 1, not result plus 1, plus I, sorry. So that means that every time we go over that loop, it's going to take that result and it's going to add this value, whatever I is at that time, to the result. And then the thing that most people forget to do, and I tend to not mind when this mistake is made, people forget to then return that value at the end. So we're going to want to, we're updating this result value, we're setting those values, we're going to want to return that result. So now on the right hand side, when we click on run code, when we have the number 8, we get 36 rather than 8 now. And if we have the number 4, we get the number 10, which was suggested here. So you want to test out those cases as well. If we were to click on run test cases, you'll see that there's a lot of green in here. So it's run our tests. It took the input of 12, it got 78, took the input of 140, and it got the output of 9,870. So I've run the code, I've run the test cases. So now I feel pretty confident to submit. So I click on the submit button. Are you sure? Submit solution. And as you can see, it's running a range of test cases, and it's also sending us a little email or an update to let us know that you completed it, and it will send you an email to let you know that you completed. In fact, I'm wrong. It won't do that yet because you've got 2 other tests to do. But as you see, it tells you that it's been saved. This is your update. This is your output. You can redo the challenge as well if you'd like to. So if you're not happy with the way you did it, you can make that change. You'll then click on continue assessment, and you'll start the challenge for your second coding challenge, and then for your third. And once you come back here and they're all completed, you can click on submit assessment, and that's when you'll get the email, and that's when we'll be told that you've completed your assessment. I know I ran through that very quickly because really I shouldn't be showing you the answer to the test. But does anybody have any questions at all for me? Feel free to unmute and ask as well if you want.
My question is, do you have to do the same assessment for the free courses? So
there's a different assessment for Return to Tech. This is the Entry to Tech assessment. Return to Tech is different, and AWS Restart is not a coding assessment, and that's allocated to each person individually, but it's not a coding assessment.
Okay. So the Return to Tech will be added at this, would it?
Would it be what? Yeah, a little bit harder. It's a bit harder.
Okay. Thank you.
No
I think I'll go to AWS.
Okay, no problem.
What would the AWS assessment be?
Let me see if I can find one.
Thank you.
Find one. Let me see.
Yeah, while you're looking, that's a relief that it's not AWS test. I was beginning to lose heart.
I would definitely say don't lose heart. There are a lot of people who say they can't do it, and then they watch the video and then they have a go at the. I've seen people go from fail to looking at the resources and then passing with 100%.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've been following your Python video, and that looks amazing. So it all looks amazing. It's just it's alien to me, but I'm glad it's not the AWS test. But is there a way to access Codabyte so that once I've done AWS, I can use Codabyte as a playground or something? Or
yeah, so here back in the email, at the bottom, you can click on the practice assessment.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
You can
Yeah.
also just go to Codabyte, and I believe you can just do some challenges there if you'd like. Oh, I'm logged in, so it's going to show you something different because I've just logged in. But
Yeah.
you could go to Codabyte and just do assessments on the platform.
Oh, great. Yeah, and I can fail those, and it won't
Yeah, you can
report
fail.
that.
You can
Yeah.
fail hours and do it again. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
If I
Oh,
see that
brilliant.
you've got a strong application and then you fail an assessment, I'll probably contact you and say, do you mind doing it again and do this first?
Yeah,
So-
totally. It won't be relevant for me because it won't be for AWS, but I'd like to practice and just getting my head around, just becoming familiar with all of this anyway. But
Absolutely, I would definitely recommend that. So this is one of the AWS ones. So it's very different. Welcome to the AWS Restart Learner Assessment. So you tell it what device you're on and then proceed, and you can use any device for this as well, I believe. So you'll then click next and start running through this process. It tells you what you'll cover on AWS and what AWS is all about. Someone's asked for entry to tech are languages part of the course, or we have to figure it out ourselves. Yes, you will learn Java on the bootcamp. So you'll learn how to code and program once you're on the bootcamp. But like I say, you'll really, really struggle if you can't do any programming already. So I'd recommend doing an online course before you start on the bootcamp.
Hi, Clarin. I'm Purnima speaking. Actually, I have applied for entry to tech and return to tech boot camps. So my entry to tech was successful. They told that my application is in wait list. So it will start on May. So I want to confirm whether my seat or place has been confirmed for the next cohort.
You're on the wait list at the moment. So once we see all of our applications, that's when we can offer out acceptances.
Yeah. And I have also applied to return to tech. So am I eligible for, I'm more interested on a return to tech. But since I moved last year to UK, but I am having 5 years of experience in Java and other front-end technologies. So I want to restart my career in tech. So am I eligible for return to tech also? My application is in process. I have submitted all the assessments.
With the current partner that we're working with, you need to have been in the UK for 5 years because you'll be going through a vetting process.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can't bypass that because the vetting process is run by the government and we have no control over that at all.
Okay. So for entry to tech, am I eligible?
Yes, you should be eligible for that. Absolutely.
Your inbox will contain 4 messages.
I'm going to pause that. So we're now looking at the AWS Restart assessment here. So there'll be a short video, which I won't run to the full extent.
Each message will include the sender's name, information about who they are, the email subject line, and a preview of the message. Use this information to help you decide which messages to respond to first. 1.
So what I kind of mentioned before, did you hear that? I don't know if the sound came through.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So with this particular assessment, it's not looking at your coding ability, it's looking at your approach to working, I guess. So this question, for example, is looking at you receiving some emails, and then how would you approach choosing
Advance.
the priority of those emails? So I've just watched the video. We click on next. Once you click next, you can't go back. There's no time limit, but work quickly takes approximately 6 minutes, and the number of emails that you're going to have is 4. So here are the emails that you have, and you have to place them in priority order. So we read all of them, see what they're all about. Actually, no, I'm completely wrong. This isn't the priority order one. This one you have to write suitable responses to all the emails. So there's one where you put them in priority order, but this one we want to look at, they're looking at how the sort of responses that you may add to these. So it's looking at how you would approach these questions as opposed to because it's looking at you being able to work and understand the content that you're going to receive when you go through the bootcamp. So for these, you would answer all of those by putting in the email response and then click on next. We don't see the answers to any of these. We just get a grade for you on the other side. So I don't know the way to answer them appropriately. I don't know the best way that you can approach them. What I would say is, if you're doing this particular assessment or these assessments, do try and have an approach and do have a go anyway. A lot of people, if they see assessment, don't click on the assessment button because they don't want to try because they think they can't do it. But I always say try anyway and assume that you can. But there'll be a few questions like this. You'll click next. It will guide you through the whole process. And then once you've completed, you'll submit and we will receive your grade on completion. If you can't go back and edit anything once you've started it either. So you need to only run through it one time. So give yourself time to actually approach it. If it's upon completion of entry to tech, is there a secured role with the funding partners? I would say no, there's never a secured role that we have with any boot camps, because we're not going to promise a role before you've completed it. So what we have, I will say the way that we tend to approach it. We have some boot camps where you apply, and then we have a range of companies that will support you in applying to once you finish. We have some where a company has fully sponsored it and they'll interview you at the beginning of the boot camp. If you pass their interview and you pass our stage, you'll then get a place on the boot camp. And if you successfully complete the boot camp, you'll then get a job with them and we'll support you to successfully complete the boot camp. And then we have the other approach, which is you'll join one of our boot camps. We'll assess you, we'll put you through the boot camp. And then if you pass the boot camp, we'll then send over or share the results and discuss each candidate with our partners, and you may be offered a role, but we can't guarantee that you'll get one because it will be based on your performance whilst you're on the boot camp as well. Does that answer your question? Cool. Okay, we have gone over by 13 minutes, I think. So I'm going to give you all your evenings or afternoons back. People saying evening. But it's been great to meet all of you, and don't hesitate to email us with any questions if you have any more. But if you've already started your application, complete it, don't worry about it. We're here to support. Let us know if you've got any questions whilst you're going through it. We're running these sessions, like I said, every 2 weeks as well. And we want you to be successful. We want you to get onto the boot camps. So don't hesitate to have a go, and we're here to support with the full process. But I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.